Robbie, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
We've talked before about how important this is. I've tried to control myself for 2.5 hours, and I want to put to you what I've put to Richard Tice, to Peter Bleksley, to Maggie Oliver. Before we get political, you know, yes, he's bowed to pressure and she's standing up saying victims have been let down. Do you believe, without over-egging this, that this is an institutionalised cover-up in the biggest sense of the word and goes far higher up than any of us imagine? Because, Robbie, this is my point. If this has been going on for 2 decades, this is a stain. It's an embarrassing day for the United Kingdom. I don't care, I mean, in my opinion, the colour of your skin or where you come. I don't care. If you think it's all right to rape an 8-year-old girl, you have no place in my society. That's how I feel today.
Absolutely, you have no place in society whatsoever. And indeed, this is a national scandal and is probably one of the biggest institutional failures that not only the British state, whether it's national government or local government, but any organisation that has not called this issue out for what it is and has not dealt with this issue, that has had safeguarding responsibilities, needs to hang their head in shame. And I only hope that the Home Secretary is going to be strong enough in the powers that she is awarding through today's announcement to hold those very organisations, whether it's a local government like Bradford Council in my region, or dare I say those responsible for our policing or those that have had safeguarding responsibilities.
And you wouldn't mind me saying you wouldn't mind me saying this within the context of what Baroness Casey said. She touched upon Asian heritage. She touched on British Pakistani men. She touched upon illegal migrants. There will not just be people at local level in councils and police. There might well be politicians higher up the chain who have turned a blind eye. When you talk about institutional, and I'm not, Robbie, we're friends. But this isn't just a year. This has been going on through 14 years of Tory rule. And I believe that if anybody has turned a blind eye, if this is just the middle and upper classes turning the blind eye to working, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's a group of people who think, oh, well, if we highlight the problems that people who have come into this country and are carrying out things that we say that, then immigration's... Any of that, I would absolutely expect those people to be dragged to the inquiry. But many people who phone this show are saying, you know, oh, it's going to be a whitewash. The only reason he's been dragged to doing this is because reform are taking hold of councils. And because, like me, many people who listen to this think that the British people have suddenly realised their voice works.
Well, absolutely. Look, it was a predecessor of mine, Anne Cryer, who was actually a Labour MP that held the seat of Keighley that I now lucky enough to represent, who actually was one of the first to blow the lid off this issue way back between 97 and 2010. And even her Labour government at the time just refused to even do anything about it. Indeed, she was effectively called a racist by her own party. And dare I say, this has been a systematic failure by all administrations for a significant long
Why,
period.
Robbie? Why? You've campaigned. Why? Why has it been covered up in your mind?
Well, it really worries me that A, politicians have relied on votes coming in. B, politicians have been frightened of being called a racist, and that has not allowed a sensible conversation to take control of this issue.
Can I ask you let me ask you a question, because you know you've always been really good and really open. You've admitted the mistakes that your party's made. Do you, as a politician, right, if you knew, or in the position you're in and you've called for this, would you be concerned about being called a racist if you knew fundamentally that you were protecting the rights of young white 8-year-old girls who were being raped systematically? Would you care if you were called a racist? Because that's not racism. To me, that's morally doing the right thing.
No, it would not worry me at all. And the reason why it wouldn't, because I know the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Yeah. And unfortunately, there are too many politicians. And dare I say, I'm seeing this and experiencing this within the Bradford district right now, because our leader of Bradford Council, and indeed the West Yorkshire Mayor, is not advocating to have more openness and more transparency on this issue across the Bradford district, and indeed have been pushing back on having a local inquiry or indeed a national inquiry on this issue since day one, and not getting behind my campaign. Look, as you quite rightly say, this is a difference between right and what's wrong. And if any individual, regardless of political colour, regardless of what level of authority that they hold, have been deemed to be covering this issue up, they absolutely need to lose their job. Secondly, if they have been involved in any criminal activity whatsoever, and anybody else, convictions must follow. And what I really want to see from this inquiry is that it's boots on the ground. This is not an inquiry that's led from Westminster, led from London. This needs to be out in those local areas, like mine in Keighley, in Bradford, to absolutely get to the bottom and get to grips on this absolute heinous crime, so we can install trust back in those organisations.
It's really interesting. I had a text earlier which I wanted to put to you. I've deleted it now, but the main premise was so, and I am not at this point condoning the far-right thugs. So there were far-right thugs that took to the streets after the Southport riots. But overnight, our Prime Minister, we had no police, no court space and no prison space. And overnight, there was this sort of public rounding up. Everybody was deemed to be far-right if they disagree with anything the government did, and people were put in prison for daring. They were called far-right. Why, in the name of the Lord, are many people saying, why are we not able to round up people who think it's acceptable to rape young girls and not do exactly the same? And the reason for that is this fear. I was told this by Rotherham Police 2-3 years ago. Guy said to me, off the record, you know, here's the thing. We probably weren't as robust as we should have been in the process because we were scared of social unrest. For me, Robbie, that says, so... and I'm not racist, there's not a racist bone in my body, that says that if you come to this country and you commit what I call heinous crimes, you can be forgiven those because you're new to this country. But Lucy Connolly is the prime example. What Lucy Connolly wrote after the Southport riots online was extremely bad and wrong. But rather than make her serve 31 months in jail for hurty words, I would have thought that her community service would have been spending time with the Muslim community and understanding how bad her words were and how unfortunate they were. No, she's languishing in jail, but we have illegal migrants who might well be rapists. We have all sorts of people who can use left-wing lawyers under the ECHR and stay in this country. And I do, because you're one of the few Tories that you listen, and I think it's fantastic. I honestly believe the British people are no longer going to be fed and accept this BS much longer. I genuinely believe that, and I'm not, you know, that's just my opinion, but I do think we're reaching quite an important point. I really do.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not that they're not going to accept it. I don't think they're accepting it right now. And that is absolutely the crucial point, because if anyone comes to this country, they need to be living by our core values right now, not we having to adapt to theirs. That is absolutely the key thing of having absolutely a system, a community that works. So what I really want to see from this national inquiry is areas like Bradford, like Keighley, to have a focus on. We've not had that reporting that's come out from the Home Secretary today, so my campaign continues. I'm getting my local authority, which is Labour-run, are telling me that they don't want an inquiry. The West Yorkshire Mayor is also, who is responsible for West Yorkshire Police, is also saying she doesn't want a local inquiry.
Why would she say that when there are young girls that are being raped, and the national government is saying there needs to be one? Why would she say that? How is she serving her constituents?
Well, as a matter of fact, that what they are relying on previously is that we would learn absolutely nothing new. Now, that frustrates me immensely, because what I want to see from an inquiry is convictions that follow, job losses if that is the case, and where there's been those that have had that safeguarding responsibility that have not done their job properly. And actually, most importantly, through achieving those two things, we need to install trust back in to our organisations, with those victims, with those survivors that have lost trust in those that should be there to look after.
I get that. A couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. You've been really kind. Do you think that Starmer... I'm not trying to be unfair here, but do you think that he was surprised by the breadth of criticism and desire for action in the Baroness Casey report? Do you think, I mean, we've heard rumours that they've known for 10 days. Do you think that he always knew he was going to get that and he was buying time, or do you think he was fundamentally shocked at what he read?
I really just do not know what this Prime Minister stands for. We've seen U-turns after U-turns, and we have seen him just take completely different positions to what he previously announced before the general election. So, to be honest, I don't think this Prime Minister is up for being surprised at all, because I just genuinely do not know what he stands for or what direction that he wants to take this country in.
And finally, Robbie Moore, a Conservative Keighley and Ilkley, and you have campaigned, and fair play, it's an important day for you. And Maggie Oliver we had on. I asked Maggie this, I asked Richard Tice this, and I'll ask you. Do you think this is an embarrassing day for the United Kingdom, like the rest of us do?
Unfortunately, I do. And I think it's even more embarrassing for those that have consistently said that we do not need more openness and more transparency, like those leaders across West Yorkshire. So we're all duty bound, like I am as a Member of Parliament, indeed anybody, to carry that responsibility forward for the good of those victims and survivors, indeed wider society.
I should say to you, as I said to Maggie, we thank you for the efforts that you've put in with your campaign, and the fight continues. Robbie Moore, thank you so much indeed.